Just to share a little bit about my testimony, I guess. A lot of people always, all the time, ask, like, what's your story? Somebody one time told me I'm very mysterious, I guess. I just think of myself as just a normal guy. At the end of the day, I'm thankful that God uses me, and I'm thankful that God has his way in our services and the way he does. I can't take no credit for myself. I'm just a guy that was born in Columbus, Ohio. For those who don't know, I was born in Columbus, Ohio, raised in Columbus, Ohio. Grew up in a church named All Nations Church. And my granddad was a pastor at Florida Baptist Church in Chillicothe, Ohio. And his name was Reverend Robert Jordan. And my granddad was kind of almost as if the strongest person I ever met in my life. His strength was something I always admired. I guess you could say I always wanted to be like him. If there was any person I would mirror my life to or measure it to, it would be him. And then in 2004, he died. And I remember watching him die. I was there when he actually died. I remember that moment. It was a very defining moment in my life. It was a moment that I felt emotions and things that I've never felt before. And I remember not sure what tomorrow was going to be. It was the first time in my life I can think of where I wasn't sure about tomorrow. I wasn't sure how to live tomorrow. These things were the things that answered my questions. So I went down this path for a minute where I felt like I was not living. Like I was alive, but I wasn't living. And I felt and I was only 14, but yet I still didn't feel completed. I felt so uncompleted, like a part of me had died at that hospital bed on the 4th floor in Mount Carmel East in room 422. I remember the time that he died was 3:15 p.m. I'm not sure what the time they put on the paper, but he really died at 3:15 p.m. I remember just watching him take his last breath, and that was a cultivating thing in my life. And then throughout those times, I lost so many dear friends to death, and I think that I've tried to run from the call to preach because of the things that I had experienced, and I didn't quite understand it, and there was no one really there to give you understanding. It was keep your head up, we're here for you, and then you try to reach out for folk that are supposed to be there for you, and there was no one there. I felt emotionally scarred. I felt emotionally hurt. I didn't grow up in a two-parent house home. I didn't grow up with a picket fence. I didn't grow up with none of the cliche things that you hear about. I grew up in a society where me as a child, I had to make things work. I had to be 3 steps ahead of everything in my life in order for me to survive. And so I had to really be prepared. I had to really be strategized. And so I took time out in my life. Majority of my life, I have always been someone who's been disciplined, someone who has fought for things and made things work. It's just for so long, it's always been on me to make something work. And so I got into the position where I got tired of fighting. I was in radio, and I was at the club, and I was drinking. And I remember hearing the voice of God, and he's saying, don't forget your call. Now, I didn't go to the club just to go to the club. I was getting paid when I was getting to the club. I was getting some money. And I remember hearing that, man. I remember fighting within myself, my call, wrestling within myself and my call. And I look back at myself and I said, why did I do that? And I think because I felt like I was so in fear, and I felt like I had so many issues, and I felt like I had so many problems. I didn't feel like I could do it. And then I learned it's not really me doing anything. It's really him. And so a lot of times we try to minister within ourselves, but we have to really come out of ourselves in order to God to truly use us and to move upon us. So I want to let somebody know today that you got to let God use you. There was a time and a point in my life that I shouldn't even be alive right now. I was told I was going to die 3 times in my life. When I was born with birth defects. My lungs were messed up. My trach was messed up. I had intestinal problems when I was 3. I had malrotation, which can kill you. There were so many different things that I faced, the door of death, and the hand of God saved me. The hand of God spared me. The hand of God redeemed me. And so to those who may be going through some things, God will put you through this path called life of testing, trials, ups and downs, frowns and smiles. At the end of the day, he will still prove that he still sits on the throne.